Hey, what's up, everybody? International Maestro, Glorified FIDE Master, International Master William Paschall. We are getting started here on lichess and Twitch. This is my weekly so-called subscriber stream. If you guys want to contact me, you can send me a message with a game. Subscriber games are the focus of the stream today. I will play a few blitz and rapid games in between analyzing games. We usually do maybe 5 or 6 game analysis, and then like 4 or 5 blitz games or rapid games, as the case may be. Well, anyway, I wish Arsenal fan a good time at chess club, and say hi to the guys and unfortunately girl at chess club. But if you have more than 5%, that's probably better than average. I want to contact you, but about your hangover cures. Draw that Palinka. I don't know about hangover cures. I'm really like, kind of cold turkey sort of person. That's how I quit smoking several times. Anyway, Asterbait, thank you for the message. I got you. I got your game, so you don't need to send me a message on Twitch right now. Stuff keeps popping up. Anyway, guys, thanks for subscribing. If you want to send me a game to analyze, we're going to go over subscriber games. Send it to me here on lichess.org. I don't think our moderator is in the house. Hopefully he'll be along, because it is, it is like 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock his time. So hopefully he'll be here. He actually sent me a message earlier. Oh, he is online, but I haven't seen him in the chat yet. Oh, there he is. He was right there, just as I was saying it. So if anybody, for some reason, can't send me a message, they're like, I guess he was like chat banned or something. I don't know. Why couldn't he send me messages himself? That was weird. He couldn't send me messages on lichess, but I don't understand why. But if for any reason you can't send me a message on lichess, you can send the message in the Twitch stream, for what game you want to analyze, and Soltigo can send it over to me, because I can't. I've got Twitch on one machine and lichess on the other. I just like to do it like that. I have more space to work and stuff like that, so it's hard for me to move stuff from one thing to the other. In other words, from Twitch to lichess, I have to actually like send myself an email, so it's kind of awkward. Hey, what's up, everyone? Thank you for subscribing. All right, we've got a number of games to analyze. I've got no challenges yet. If you guys want to play blitz or rapid, excuse me, we will get to a couple of those. Usually Troll and a Roll is here. Maybe his subscription lapsed. He was actually late the other day too. Tushar is shadow banned, and I think that maybe that's what was up with Ayesta too, because he couldn't send me messages on lichess, I guess. I don't know. You've done something bad in another life. Anyway, Ananas to challenge Lee Morales. Let's start a game with Ananas, then we'll go to game analysis. Ananas, Morales are challengers who are subscribers. What time control? It's the same as usual. Anything between 5+3 and 7+3. But I'm leaning toward focusing more on the... Let's play e4 against Ananas. I'm leaning on focusing more toward the game analysis, rather than just playing rapid blitz, because we do that 3 times a week. The French defense. I was teaching one of my students how to play the King's Indian attack, and I figured, well, let's do it. Ananas is pretty well versed theoretically, so I'd imagine he'll have something, prepared here. I've never actually played the King's Indian attack against the French in my own personal games. I have played Chigorin's Queen E2, which is kind of related to the King's Indian attack and can in fact transpose. But you can also play that on move, in this case on move 3, which Zen Chess, one of our subscribers, played against me a while back. But the King's Indian attack is a good kind of, I would call it like a good, maybe like backup weapon. Move order here, I'm a little bit interested in. Am I supposed to play g3 first? Does that make a difference if I play knight f3 first? Well, it's not like he's going to put his bishop on c5. It's just more common to go knight f3 first. I hope, but I'm not an expert. I was recommending to my student who was interested in the King's Indian attack that he should look at lines where black plays c5. Recommended by John Watson in his book. Who was it that sent that last week message? I should get John Watson played the French. Ananas. Anyway, you probably have the book, but John recommends the setup with c5, knight c6, and bishop d6, or yeah. So not committing the knight to f6 so early, I think, is a good line, which in fact Watson recommends. This is a bit strange, bishop c5. I really don't think that's right, but it could be some kind of really deep Nimzovician sort of thing. So I wasn't sure about d4. Of course, I can play like it's Philidor, but that doesn't seem right. I mean, the real refutation here is e5, if there is such a thing as a refutation. He's inducing me to do this. And my plan was to play d4, but my Rubinstein, Nimzovich kind of reference was actually to a Latvian gambit where he played like bishop b5, or bishop c4, bishop b3. This is almost like the same idea in the in the hillbilly variation of the Caro-Kann. So I'll play d4, but I'll later have to get back a tempo or whatever. But okay, fine. What are we transposing to here anyway? I mean, it looks like a cross between the advanced French and some other funky line. d4 is going to be hard for me to hold, so bishop d3, knight c6, c3. Sorry, bishop d3, c5, c3, knight c6, and I can't maintain the strong point. I could play c3, but then what do I do after c5? There's also like bishop e2, but that's very passive. Good question here. This is like a totally new position to me. I mean, it seems like it should be okay because he did lose a little time there. Maybe we play Caro-Kann style. It's like one of those weird advanced Caro-Kanns, but this feels right to me. Now, I don't even have to take, but okay, it's just a weird position after something like b3. I feel like I'm playing like actually it reminds me of now it reminds me of some kind of the late Kuprejcik played Kuprejcik played like Caro-Kann with for c3 and bishop e3, weird stuff with bishop e3 in the Caro-Kann advanced variation. It looks kind of like that. My intention was to take on c5 right away. I'm talking a lot and not really moving as fast as my opponent, trying to make it instructive. Handicap knockout. It sounds like some kind of poker tournament. What? Weird format there. UK chess clubs are so much more fun than American, I'm sure. The day of chess clubs is the days of chess clubs are dwindling. What about you, Clash Kid? Do you have a cool chess club there? You were mentioning that old guy Baumgartner was in your club. I was just imagining, what the typical Austrian chess club was like here. I mean, I think in Hungary it's, I don't know, it's not as clubby. They're more like teams, but it doesn't feel like a club per se. And now the recapture. Well, we may not have a choice. You always have a choice. Knight takes d4, bishop takes d4. Bishop takes d4 feels like the right move. That's like what Botvinnik would say. Okay, trade the dark squared bishop in the Tarrasch French. This is the Tarrasch French. We're trading the dark squared bishop. But I have to make sure that this guy is protected, and that's kind of a liability. And I mean, also when I trade on b6, excuse me, he's developing his queen, which is slightly irritating. And plus I'll have to defend e5. How am I going to defend e5 after that? That's actually a serious problem. Bishop takes b6, queen takes b6, and what do I do about the e5 pawn? That's not good. So I can't exchange, and he's also threatening stuff like bishop c7 type of stuff. So it almost looks like I have to play the perverse bishop to b5 here. And that can't be right. That just can't be right. c3, bishop c7, and then it's like, okay, I mean, that's another way to try to play it. c3, bishop c7, bishop b5, try to maintain my pawn, but at what cost? It's interesting. c3 take with the bishop, take with the pawn. I don't know. This feels very artificial for white, and he's got a 2.5 minute time advantage. Maybe bishop b5 would have been better, but I didn't like variations where I'm just taking on c6, he's taking back with the pawn, and then he's avalanching me with like c5. He could just do knight takes, pawn takes, then his knight on d7 looks a little bit weird. My theory about symmetrical pawn structures is that 2 knights versus 2 bishops are good in symmetrical pawn structures. Pawns, like bishops need breaks. You always give good comments about the French. Maybe I should play it, Antonio, you know. It's probably better than the Caro-Kann. I tried to play the Caro-Kann a lot during my chess existence, but never with a lot of success. I always point to the fact that I played Nakamura one game. That was my like last French ever. But I mean, seriously, I've only played it in like 4 games. I wanted to play it around that time when I played it against Hikaru, but I was like kind of like, okay, hopefully he'll just transpose to the English defense. I was thinking of playing the what about this? Is that stupid? Bishop b5, f6 take. We just go totally Nimzovich on him. This is really extreme. Sports, don't try this without a snowboard. I mean, bishop b5 doesn't feel right. Maybe I'm just kidding. I mean, I wanted to play bishop d3. Okay, I can castle. Then if he does something fancy, I'll take on d7. I was just joking around. Wow. All right. e4. Full Nimzovich. Bishop b5. Sack the exchange with queen g4 now. Rook e1. Queen f6. But I'm holding. It's not so stupid to joke about sacking the exchange, but it's a little bit stupid. Just a little bit stupid. Now all we need to do is defend a little bit, and our 2 knights will go fully nuclear. Yeah, okay. Straight up Aaron style. But black's bishops are pretty decent, you have to admit. It's not a one-way egyszerű, they say in Hungarian, one-way street. But that's a good sign. I like rooks on e8. That is always a good sign. This guy is active. He's an active rook. He's ready for action. We've got the 2 knights against 2 bishops. Not quite a symmetrical formation, but the e5 square is straight out of the late great Aaron Nimzovich. We're all right. We're hanging on time. You demolished Nakamura in the French defense. I was white. Why would Nakamura play the French defense? Why does he play the Queen's Gambit declined? I don't understand, you know. Like at first I understood he was trying to prove something with his like defensive openings. But then I think he went too far, you know. Just stop that and go back to the way you were before, you know. His endgame technique is good. You know, he doesn't have anything to prove. Just play as aggressive openings as you can, Hikaru. Don't try to, you know, be something else. Just be good at what you do. Be a great tactician and attacking player, and you'll go far. I don't see the Queen's Gambit declined or understand why Hikaru would play that. Bishop is not always strong in the endgame. With pawns on one side, right? Pawns on two sides, the bishops are better. Outside pawns, the bishops are better. Queen f4 is kind of not really threatening anything. I mean, I think I can afford to play g3. I'm not sure I really want to. Time. How important is the concept of time here? I can definitely play a3. I mean g3. I don't know why a3 was not a Freudian slip or something. It was just really, I don't know where that came from. That was like from a dream or something. Dvoretsky says, yeah, I mean, Dvoretsky knows what he was talking about. All right, a5 was obviously, you know, to be expected, but what's up? This is a mere donation. He has queen f6, and then we can go fully Smyslov with f4, but I'm not sure. f4 g5, he may have the guts to pull that g5 on us. Wait, why can't I just play like knight c5? And I don't need to take on a5 and drop the f2 pawn. Even that might not be that bad, but let's say queen f6, knight c5 even. Bishop takes c5, pawn takes c5. That looks good for white, actually. If he doesn't do queen there, I mean, I'm going to just take on a5. He has some weird counterplay with like rook a8 or something. I don't know, I just made this up. I made it up as I was going along in the opening. I'm sure that it's not 100% great. But he took on e5 and then I took on d7. I thought, maybe I'm better after that. Okay, rook f3, queen d8, and it seems like he, you know, he kind of maintains some threats. So if I go here, we're being positionalistic instead of materialistic. Changing in the pawn structure. He has the d4 move, but I thought I can meet that with rook f3. I don't know if he was banking on that. I mean, now now he's not giving anything up. Bishop c6 is a cool move. Okay, black's position isn't that bad. I mean, he's a little bit passive. a5 is hanging. Sometimes you just have to take... He defended that. We're better, but I mean, it doesn't mean that we're winning. Got good play on the dark squares, but not so easy. Threatening to win a pawn here. He's denying me. All right, now I guess we go go for the material. Well, I firmly believe this is better for white. To connect to pass pawns, we're going to go after the A pawn as well, but here he traded queens. He resigned, but I have b4 on the queen side, a3, b4, and then b5, so I should be winning. Say e4, rook takes f6, king takes f6 now, h5, keeping him honest, d4, h6, whatever, king g6, g5, and then it's like 3 against 2 on the queen side wins. b3, a3, ultimately, and b4, and then b5 takes a, and then c6, b4, c7, etc. Okay. Anyway, guys, let's do some game analysis from the subscribers. What's up? This is a very rare move, this bishop c5, but it's interesting, and it's funny that I thought about that move naturally when you know, before you played it. Here's a game of Vigantsev against Nepomniachtchi. Hebden Rendell. Mark actually lost this position with white. d4. And then knight b3, and this is probably the best move. Wow, so this is an actual line. c5. But everybody else took on c5. Okay, that's normal, but I didn't really want to trade pieces. d takes c5, knight takes c5. This was my original plan when I went into the position, but I was kind of like, well, I don't really want to trade pieces. But it looks promising. White is slightly better. All right. Is it ever too late to start learning chess? I don't think. Main line. Right, I've never even seen it before. I mean, but it's an interesting move and playable. I don't think it's ever too late to start learning chess and start learning chess right. Okay, guys, we've got a lot of subscriber games to analyze. Let me see who was first here. My most recent tournament game, this must be from Nefedov. I don't know if Nefedov is here. I wasn't watching the chat, but we're going to go over this, whether he likes it or not. Is this the game? 401. No, that can't be right. Your most recent? Is this it? Well, this has to be it. I mean, it's 13-2. Nefedov is black. His most recent game. Isn't that what he said? Well, this is a game I'm going over if he likes it or not. e4, e5, knight f3. It's knight c6, bishop c4. And Pavel plays knight f6, which he's played before. There was one other game he showed on here with this variation, and his opponent played the, you know, whatever that is, leading to the fried liver. d3. I mean, d3 is better in my opinion. There's no question. d3 is the modern, you know, top 10 players in the world approach of this two knights defense, or, well, you know, gioco pianissimo. After bishop c5, it's a gioco pianissimo, basically. Very quiet game. And then here Nefedov played h6. I'm not a huge fan of h6. You know, the engine seems to like it. It's like pointing out that move. But you can allow bishop g5. I mean, it's not the most dynamic position for white here. So, like d6 and castles are, you know, I don't think I've seen like Aronian play a6. Let's see. I mean, not a6, h6. I was saying h6. Like, who plays h6? Inarkiev, David Hall, and then some random guy. So, That's not really great company. I mean, David Hall and Arkiev are okay, but I mean, if this was a good move, we'd see better players playing this move. I mean, it seems to me like h6 is okay. It's playable. It's kind of a scared move, you know, but it's fine. It's playable. h6, c3. You may later regret moving that pawn over there, and then a5, and this is just a catastrophe. I don't know. It seems like I don't like a5 in the games that I've seen from, I don't know, Karyakin, and when they played it in sort of appropriate positions, I still don't like a5 because it weakens the white squares. In a lot of cases, black has big problems because of like weaknesses on the white squares. Nefedov can't afford to play h6 and then a5. I mean, in fact, you have to act in the center here. I mean, you need to play like d6 or bishop b6 and prepare yourself for the inevitable d4. So a5 is a really bad move. And then knight a3. Like, these guys are just trying to, it looks like they're just trying to recreate something that looks like, I don't know, you know, Hare Krishna against Karyakin or something, you know, from some top 10 sort of players. But not a Minister of Defense, but he doesn't usually play stuff this this sketchy. I mean, this is really dubious. It's just bad. I mean, white just hammers you in the center with d4, and what do you expect to get when you play like h6 and a5? h6 was like, already I don't like it. a5, I don't even like it when Karyakin does it. You know, just play a6 in like a normal move. Anyway, so the white just did knight a3 because he saw Caruana do that in a game in a totally different position. Okay, it's fine, you know, to go here, and it's a fun way to maneuver your knight, but it's not as strong as d4. That looks like overwhelming. I mean, d4, what are we doing? Our whole position is about to fall apart, you know? White just, this is what happens every time in Joko Pianissimo. If you look at the top players like Hare Krishna, Magnus Carlsen, whoever, it's always d3, 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 and then at some point d4, and that's it. Just it's a matter of time till d4 happens in a favorable moment where white gets a small edge and then tortures black forever. You've got to constantly keep d4 on the radar. This is really bad for black. Now just one extra move, probably black's okay again. I still don't like a5, leaving the square weak. Like sometimes they go bishop b5, knight c2, bishop e6. Still d4 looks rather inviting for white. White plays too passively. I mean, it's, let's see. Well, he didn't put the ratings down, but I'm going to guess that white is a dude who's like not as strong as Nefedov. Bishop takes e3, knight takes e3, castles, queen b3. That's no problem. You know, here it turns out that black can play queen d7, which is slightly, or maybe, you know, queen e7 walks into this, but something to keep in mind that the queen is trapped on b7, so maybe we don't want to put the queen on c8, but I'm not sure I would have seen it. Knight f5 anyway, that's sort of stupid. It loses a piece to a4, but spectators are invited to analyze this position with no engine as an exercise. Well, there, I'll turn it off. -3. Yeah, that's pretty obvious, though. You know, this was a really dumb move by white. a4 there, knight a5, right? Well, you don't need knight a5. But, I mean, just for argument's sake, I mean, this clearly drops the e7 check. Okay, not so sure about that. So, it's not so easy. He actually has this move. No? So does this win a piece? I mean, if queen takes c6 is possible, we have to start asking ourselves the question, do ancient aliens exist? You know, I wasn't thinking about queen takes c6, but it's not so simple, is it? I'm not so sure anymore if ancient aliens really exist. Queen takes c6 is going to just trade pieces, right? Queen takes c6 and take everything off. That's a bit of a problem. What do we do? Like, do we trap the knight on c8 or something weird? Trap the knight on e7 at the end of the day. Isn't that what's going to happen? If we do knight a5, just for argument's sake, knight e7 check, king f7, what are you going to play? I'm eating your knight. Knight takes c8. This is without any engine, obviously. But this is just a trade. Knight takes c4. No recaptures, no take backs. I mean, this is obviously a really good position for black, but it's not winning. You know, he's just better structurally. So, to analyze without engine, we take with the pawn, but then he's got, no, d5, he's got this. What am I missing here? That's completely unconvincing, right? My God. So I don't see it. With knight a5, king h8, it's a dirtdatch. That must be the secret move. Probably, if king h8 works, king h7 also works. Let's take a look at this suggestion. We'll modify it to king h7, king h8. It doesn't really matter, but I don't know why. I like king h7 because it sort of dominates the knight on f5. Let's say king h7. His knight is hanging, and we're going to trap this queen. But how are we going to trap the queen? With d5 and rook a5. That's it. Queen is trapped? Not quite. Because of knight e3. And he's got this escape here, and always that square. So it's not so simple to trap his queen. How do we trap his queen? d5 and knight d7. He's always got back here on a3. I must be missing something. Have you ever worn an... Yeah. Yeah. All right. I think we'll just go with the ban on that one. I mean, it's you know, it's funny, but I'm sorry. Just a little bit crude. All right, I don't have time to play this guessing game. So this isn't winning. King h7, king h8 is an interesting suggestion. Apparently we're winning with what? Queen d7. And only queen d7. Nothing but queen d7. But I still don't quite get it. Like, say knight e3. Ah, so you need to use all your pieces to trap the queen, like b5. That's hard to find. Rook fb8, and then here. And now it's trapoed. Okay, that's a tough problem. You know, that's like a good lichess tactics problem. I mean, that one would be one of the harder ones, I think. Absolutely not easy to find. So Nefedov is excused for not finding the forced win. Oops. Rook f7. Well, what's going on after b takes? Knight e7 check. Knight takes c8. Obviously, Pavel was concerned about dropping a pawn here. I mean, that looks pretty... The engine finds this move, but nobody's going to play that. You know, not even a GM in panic mode, you know, would think of that. If you showed the GM this position in a quiet moment, like, they'll probably find rook e8. But like when you're in the moment and you're like upset because you made a terrible mistake, you probably don't have the presence of mind to sit there and find rook e8, you know. So Nefedov, he also didn't go for this. Played rook f7. White just simply wins a pawn. This is just absolute catastrophe for black. There's no king. Aren't we glad we played h6 now? Aren't we glad about that? Isn't that awesome that we played h6 so our king side is now non-existent? Sorry for using this for political poison against my prejudices of h6, but it's horrible. Here I offered a draw. Wait. Here I offered a draw, which was rightfully declined. This is purely rating based. You know, if the guy is like 400 points lower, I think that it's a really reasonable draw offer. But if he's like within 200 points or something, you're probably dissing him pretty hard with knight g4 draw offer. It should really be rating based. However, you got some counterplay. Now Nefedov was lucky. He's got a little bit of play, but he needs, you know, he doesn't have the tactic rook takes f3. So this looks awkward though. I mean, why not like c6 or something? I would want to displace that queen off the diagonal. Obviously c6, queen c4 is possible. But then b5. Isn't that good for black? c6, queen c4, b5. I guess he goes back to e2 and protects. He might have a defense. I mean, the engine, if I look at the engine, it says e4, but I was thinking c6. But basically, Nefedov is really, really lucky if he didn't lose this game. I mean, it was extremely dubious. Knight h4, he finds a strong move. And he's lucky he's not losing a piece here. So he loses the exchange. White loses the exchange but has strong compensation. This is a monster coming to f5. So I guess there was another draw offer from white or something. Implied draw offer. Really, it begs some questions of Nefedov. You know, his handling of sharp variations like the Schliemann and for example the main line with knight g5. But here in this quiet line, he goes completely haywire. Just play fundamental moves. h6 is not necessary. a6, why do we have to do a5? Because Karyakin did that? I mean, it's not a good move. It weakens the queen side too much. Look at like the games of Aronian or someone who plays this line with black really, really well. I mean, this a5, it's a strange idea. I wouldn't touch it, and I don't like h6. Alright guys, let's play another game. I'm going to play Morales here. We'll try to focus on taking challenges from the subscribers. We'll do as many game analysis as we can, trying to get all these on. Usually I've got more than we can even do lately. I think I've got, let's see. So, Arsenal fan. Did we do Arsenal fan yet? No. Arsenal fan, Soltigo, Acerbate, and then Durndatch is not a subscriber yet. Soltigo and Bob. So, I mean, that's a lot of games to analyze. That would probably be the maximum we can do tonight. We'll throw in a few blitz games here and there. The center pawn loss. The closed Sicilian. I'm like a world-class expert. I lost the game against Durndatch in the simul, but he played psycho aggressive in that game. Bishop e5 right away is not the same though. I've actually played this line with white, you know, going back like 15 years ago, even longer. I mean, I think I first played this, well, maybe not that long ago. Yeah, around 2004 probably I started playing it. I noticed some American players played it, like Strapunski and Hess. Bishop e5. Hess might even be a student of Strapunski, I don't know, but Bishop e5. It's a tricky line. I've had some bad results with both colors in this variation. So knight to d4. And now white can play Bishop c4 is the main line. I mean, I imagine there's other possibilities. a4 is weird. Knight f3 is possible, like a reverse Rosselimo. You don't like Sicilian? Acerbate, yeah, we got your game. Did somebody else send me a message? Alright. Yeah, we got your game, but it just keeps sending me the notification. I read the message and it still like makes it look like I didn't see it. Rosselimo or something is the line, right? Sicilian with Bishop e5. Nicholas Rossalimo. Yeah, I mean, I think the naming of that variation is arbitrary. I mean, Rossalimo is not a really famous player, not a super famous player. Was a relatively strong player, but, you know, he's not like a household name. You could probably call it, some places they call it like the Nesmedinov variation, because Nesmedinov was a really strong player from well, like, what, Tatarstan or something. But anyway, he was a really strong player, just not a GM. He was an IM, but a world-class IM. And he played a lot of games with bishop e5, which is interesting because I guess what's interesting about it is the fact that Nesmedinov was a great attacker, you know. He's kind of like always remembered for his sacrifices and stuff, but the fact of the matter is that he liked closed positions. He liked to play the King's Indian. He liked to play the King's Indian attack type positions, much like Petrosian. So, you know, oftentimes he would find tactical ideas in sort of, I would say, sort of strategic openings. But Morales, I'm not really booked up on this. I think I had this position with white against Amon Simatowe, but not the same. My bishop was on c4. Now, I've never had this exact position. I don't think. My bishop would have been on c4 with white. Slightly different. I'm not a big fan of this structure for black, I have to say. I try to avoid it whenever I can. Wait a minute. Now, is this one of those weird positions where I'm supposed to play queen g5? Queen g5, knight takes d4, queen takes g2? Is going on there? Oh well, I mean, we only live once, so let's have some fun. Is this even a good move? I don't know. But something just popped out at me. I don't know. I can't remember if this is good or not. The best IM. He probably got the GM title. I don't know. Has he ever gotten the title retroactively of GM? Like, or is Nesmedinov still like the strongest IM ever? Okay, his results weren't that consistent. You know, he had some bad tournaments sometimes. But he had like a good scorer against all the world champions, you know, pretty good scorer in all of his career games against world champions, for example. I think he had a plus score against Tal, maybe others. Knight f6 looks like a more principled move than queen g5. This move really looks... it looks dubious. But I thought maybe I can take on g2 and play like even take on h2. Try to grab like 2 pawns. Well, it depends on what he does. I mean, his e4 pawn is always hanging in lines too. So, bishop to e3. What does white play here? c4? No. d3 is a good move. Try that. Yeah, no, I don't know. Like, should white give consideration to knight to g3? Kind of difficult to say, right? I'm taking the second pawn. I mean, my queen has a really good diagonal back into home base. So I think that's... Of course, he can still play knight g3, but I'm still getting away, ultimately. It's a pawn sacrifice. White has some... He has some compensation for the... Well, it's actually 2 pawns, right? Temporarily. I'm willing to give back 1, but not 2. The audience likes queen g5. Queen g5 must be -1 or something, probably. It feels very materialistic, though. You know, it probably passed my my eye at some point, you know, and it just was in my subconscious because it looks vaguely familiar, but I don't recall concretely, you know, seeing it. It does look vaguely familiar though, so I'm guessing it came from the subconscious rather than just seeing it on the board. I think it was a combination of both. You know, I realized Queen G5 was possible, and then I was like, yeah, I recognize that. You know, it's definitely in there somewhere, subconsciously. Lots of places to go with the queen. You can't even play knight takes d4, right? I mean, I can't really hang on to the pawn on d4 though. You know, okay, what am I going to do? Like queen d6? I mean, it looks a little bit. It looks a little weird to play queen d6, but that's probably what the computer will say. But let's say, like, hypothetically, we do queen d6. I mean, he's going to play b3, bishop e2, and round that pawn up. I would say I can play e5, but my main concern is my coordination and developing the rest of my pieces here, so I'd be perfectly satisfied to play queen c7, to be honest. We need to get the pieces out. I'm not a computer. I'm just going to play practically. Give him the pawn back. Pretend it's a con Sicilian where I'm just up a pawn for inadequate compensation. That's all. His king is exposed as well. I mean, it's not like his only problem is the fact that he's down a pawn. He also has coordination problems, king problem. Queen h5, starting to play like Saul. Saul with the queen a5, queen h5. What am I? I said a3 before for the wrong position. g6 and bishop g7. Kind of like it here. Fianchetto is always it's always effective against a rook on g1. This does weaken my position slightly, but I've got to do something. And then we gain a tempo on the knight. I mean, this has got to be at least +1 for black. Probably more. I'm sure there are ways I can mess it up. He's got knight f4, knight h5 type of ideas. Most likely he wants to try to do here. If I play knight f6, it will cut out knight h5. It's really hard for him to get unraveled. Played knight. He played c3 quickly. He wants to set up a center. Pawn center, chess center. Seattle. Chess center. Okay, e5, bishop b7. Gambling on this. e5, bishop b7. We're good. It's looking like Fischer random now. But he has like pretty significant counterplay at this point. I'm not that thrilled. Queen. Or maybe I should just bite the bullet and play d5 and fix the structure. I'm going to regret this, I'm sure. Should I put my knight on h5 maybe? Maybe that's the best. No way to challenge it without like sacking your queen or a rook or something. I was going to play knight e4, but the knight can get trapped on e4 by f3 very simply. Knight d7 is passive. So we're still up our pawn. I don't like the way I played this though. I gave him too much play. White has a little more compensation than he did originally, I would say. I still would prefer to be me, to be black here, but I let it slip a good deal. Good deal. Bishop wants to live. It's going to be very hard to open it up, though, with this extra pawn. So this could be a draw by failure to open the position. My extra pawn on the king side is hard to utilize. Theoretically, a strange move. Bishop d3. But no accounting for some people's taste. He's thinking tactically. I mean, I'm willing to trade queens. My position is solid enough. We've made some headway on the queen side. His king is never safe, but it hasn't been a factor thus far, unfortunately for me. You know, Morales did a good job staying in the game, you know, from that horrible opening. So obviously I can play h5, and I'm going to need to play h5. But it's hard to improve. We're going to have to win on the queen side. He has a lot of pressure. I'm not even sure that queen e7 is a good move. Not sure. He has a lot of pressure. Hope he doesn't have some weird tactic I don't see. Is he setting something up? Or he's just thinking defensively. Very difficult for me to make progress here. King is actually safer than my king now. It's so weird. But we're both making bad moves, it looks like. Both started making strange random moves. Thought I got my queen trapped. I managed to maintain my composure a little better than him. But I think that he had tons of chances. It was a really, really sloppy last 25 moves. I'm sure that white was probably okay. Maybe even better at some moment. My king felt less safe than white's king, actually. Anyway, guys, I'm going to go back to the game analysis. So, we are in the list here of players. Arsenal fan. Arsenal fan sent me this game that he actually submitted this from a league game or something. So Arsenal is black. Which games do you guys send usually? I'm not sure what to send. people are different, you know. Some people want to show off their wins, and other people are just interested in, you know, the most interesting games. But I noticed something very, very odd about this, you know. So the engine doesn't recognize, not engine, but I mean the program, like the Opening Explorer, it can recognize transpositions, and that's sort of stupid, you know. So it classifies this as Old Benoni defense after d4, c5. But the fact of the matter is that this is simply a London system. I mean, the program should be programmed to recognize very general transpositions on like the early moves. I mean, this should be categorized as London system, not Old Benoni defense. So the bane of every d4 c5 player's existence is moves like this, c3. You gotta, like, your stomach turns over and you're like, God, no, not c3. Okay, knight f6, bishop f4, and you know, there's a lot of interesting analysis with like queen b6. I think there's some crazy stuff trying to grab that pawn. The computer likes it when you look at it, but I'm not sure it's so good. I lost to one IM, a Russian IM online. Was it this exact position? No, it had to be. What else could it be? Maybe I'm thinking of e3. Wait a second here. Maybe queen b6 is actually good here, because white's played c3, not e3. If knight a3, queen takes b2. It's just a joke. So wait us to find some kind of gambit. Queen b6. I'm not in love with queen c1. What is white supposed to do here? Look who played this. Karl Marani. Artur Jakubiak, the only real player to play this position like with white. So this is just bad for white. To play it with the early c3, and now queen b6 and black is at least equal. I wonder how bad is queen b3 here. This is what Jakubiak did. The only strong player to play this position. He played queen b3, basically trying to sacrifice his pawn on d4. No, but this is not a sacrifice. You're just trading queens on b6. McShane with black. I think I saw this game somewhere. McShane played something weird. He did knight c6. That's apparently like nothing. So you're supposed to take on b3 or take on d4. Take on d4 looks right. That's what Alexander Mista did. But it's still not very exciting. Queen takes b6, a takes b6. It's a Trompowsky, but the bishop is on f4 instead of g5. This is insipid. Some guy did this. And then there was like, surprise, d takes c3, bishop e5, rook takes a2. Okay, this is not a correspondence game. What do you guys think? Are we going to vote for a correspondence game here or what? Rook takes a2. Oh no. Oops. That is beautiful. Really beautiful tactic. There's two ways we can promote. On b1 and c1. What are you going to do about it? You know, that's awesome. So anyway, Arsenal fan didn't play queen b6. Okay, it looks like the critical move. Another like playable move is c takes d4, but that's like a transposition. This guy is back again, Karl Marani. He must be like a Hungarian from Romania or something. I mean, he's got the Hungarian name with the Karl. It's like a sauce name from Dracula area. I don't know. He played here once in Budapest. But Deák Bogdan Daniel, 2017. Okay, e6 anyway. I'm getting carried away. Arsenal fan played knight c6. This is standard. but I don't like it as much as b6. Recently, in the Hungarian Chess magazine or somewhere, I thought I saw analysis on like c takes d, but that was after e3. Hera Emre Jr. did an article for Magyar Shock Vlog, like about something like maybe after e3. I don't remember. C takes d, e takes d, and then b6 last year. But the game he played. But this is different. Something weird about the move order. Still, I mean, b6 is a solid move. But anyways, okay, knight c6, e3, d5, knight bd2. We go into totally standard London system here. And you're supposed to play bishop d6. This goes back 100 years to Rubinstein's games, where he was, you know, playing probably both colors of this line. Akiba Rubinstein was a defender with black of d4, d5, and he also played the white side of the London. He had games with lots of strong players, like Dosud Mirsky, Rubinstein in this line. But it's a really main line. Like, there were games even in my last tournament in December here in the Heteni Memorial. There was a game where Galiash Miklos crushed Jakub Attila with a stock sacrifice on h7. And this is like a total main line. I mean, Carlsen probably has games here. What do we got? Carlsen Anand, Carlsen Karyakin. So it's a really old variation, 100 years old. But Arsenal fan played instead bishop e7. This is passive, you know. And I guess there's some people who are playing it. Ironians played it twice, but it feels more passive to me. I would prefer to play, like, if you want to play bishop e7, I would prefer to play d5, maybe bishop e7, and b6 and bishop b7, and not commit the knight to c6 so early. So this is theory, apparently. And white has, like, some attacking chances against h7. Wow, new Alexyenko game, 2017. And f6, inherently logical, you know. It's, as long as there's no taking on h7, I mean, I think that f6 seems okay. So I don't understand why nobody's played f6. Is it so bad? Well, I guess this is critical. Take, take, and queen c2. Exactly what the guy did. I know some of you guys play the London system. So according to the Grandmasters, this is a mistake. Like, he's supposed to take here. But there's no high-level games. Just Zorko and this other game from 2015. Yuri Zorko. I beat him once in tournament in Novogorica or something. Knight takes e5, f6, knight takes c6, b takes c6, queen c2, f5, and now looks like g4 is on the menu. I would be very concerned about g4, but black has c4. So it looks like the computer recommends h3 with g4 ideas, maybe down the line. Okay, it's a position. It's a position, I don't know. White's a little better, and he's not committed to castling kingside yet, which is one of the tricks that these guys like who play the London system. But this is lame, you know. I mean, trading pieces is not really what white wants to do here. I think this is lame. Trading a knight, you know, for the knight on d7 is kind of like BFD. Black is a little closer to a draw now. I'm not sure if I like the exchange on d4 or not, because you'll notice that in the game, white gets a lot of pressure along the e line. So it looks like maybe here Arsenal fans should be more subtle. Not necessarily giving white, every time you make a move, you got to think about how the other guy's pieces will improve or not improve. And Arsenal fan was thinking only about his plan, which is to, like, take on d4 and then chip away, continue to chip away with, like, c5. That's fine to undermine his center, but he's forgetting about what he's doing for the other guy here. When you make this exchange, you're improving his control of this line, and that makes you backward along the e file. So it looks like if you believe the computer here, You know, you can play for an unpleasant endgame with like bishop d6, or you can play the more ambitious move a5, and the idea is bishop a6. And I think that strategically speaking, this is the best plan for black. We're going to try to trade off his good bishop, and that one will be, you know, we can probably trade the one on e5 whenever we want down the line later on. If that's a strong piece, we can trade it whenever we want. But it looks like a5, as Stockfish points out, a nice positional judgment by the computer to play for bishop a6 rather than playing c takes d. So this is very straightforward, but you had a better plan. You know, another move that I'm not really in love with. I don't see any real benefit of exchanging here and releasing the tension. White just has a nice tight little advantage. He could even play with the pawn takes, I guess. But, you know, not many people are going to want to do that to their structure. Now white needs to realize, like, this is not a good thing to allow. He played what, this? Alright. Not the most natural way. I mean, you can play here, right? And f4. Straight up Nimzovich. But he goes queen e2. Now already there's kind of complications with e5. And Arsenal fan finds this. White is suddenly just worse. You know, he's hanging h2 and black is threatening e5 and there's no f4. So, best of luck to you, sir, but you just lost the whole initiative. Now black is rolling. It's not an easy win by any means, and I don't really know, you know, but I think I want to play like bishop b7 and kill him on the long diagonal. Keep the pawns as fluid as possible. But Arsenal fan just went, you know, he just went direct. Maybe it's good, you know, but you've got to calculate a lot here. So f4 and bishop d4, one would assume. That's his blunder. Wow, so the computer said he had this. Why is g6 bad? Oh, because d5. Oh no. They both probably missed this, you know, hits d5. That's the key point. So it looks like f4 is not the best move. But you have this. You don't have to play. I don't think Arsenal fan is here. He had to leave. Black is pushing for a win now. But nobody saw the tactic on d5. So he played a little recklessly. Both sides should have seen this queen h5 idea and hitting d5. Played the natural move that I suggested, and I would have played that in blitz too. But if you look for queen h5, you know, I was looking at queen h5 just based on the threats against h7. You know, and that's enough. Black has to play g6, but then you're like, oh my god, everything's falling. The rook is hanging on a8, and who knows, you know, maybe that's even a possible sacrifice, but how do you do it, you know? So black got kind of lucky. f3 and he's winning. White has no squares on the file. Well, e3 is the only one. And he doesn't go there, but I guess it's not a great square. What happens on bishop f4? Yeah, the white king side is just crushed. Bishop h3, bishop takes h7, king h8, queen g6, and mate. Well, it's might as well mate. So this was really kind of a lucky game, a little bit, you know. I mean, he played pretty well, but there were a lot of subtle mistakes by both sides, and it should have been very unclear as to who was better. But Rich got kind of lucky there. All right, let's move on to another game analysis. I'm going to skip the blitz and go to another game analysis because we got a bunch to do here. Soltigo, I think I looked at your games and I'll try to remember. You actually made some mistake here, Soltigo. You sent me two games that are the same. You meant to send me this game with Super Simi, but you actually sent me the same game twice. I'm not sure if you realized. Lost Stonewall. Yeah, let's let's look at this. A lot of people have trouble with the Stonewall attack. I mean, it's something that no one can avoid. You know, it's very basic opening. Like the first time I played, you know, in a tournament, I think my first opening was the Stonewall attack before I learned the English opening. And it was just, I realized very quickly this This is just a kind of cheap, tricky opening. It's not really good. I think the Stonewall Dutch is a little different. But trying to do the Stonewall attack against everything, is not really appropriate. D4, knight f6, e3, and so Soltigo plays d5. Earlier I had a game from one of my students who played d5, and his opponent played e3, and he played e6 here, and I said, I don't see any reason to play e6, even though if your normal defense is like the Queen's Gambit declined or something like that, you don't have to commit to playing e6 right away. I mean, on the one hand, you can be very aggressive, and if they don't play c4 in the queen pawn games, I mean, you can turn it around. Rubinstein would play like c5 here, and a lot of aggressive, top players still do that. But, not too many strong players play this stuff with white, just Yusupov, and basically that's it. But what I wanted to say is, like, when white doesn't play c4, you really want to keep your options open as far as like getting this bishop outside the pawn chain if they try to do some weird Stonewall attack or whatever. So you did knight f6, and you did e6 again. You didn't do e6. Why am I looking at that? Okay, you did knight f6. Anyway, don't do like that d5 e6 so early is what I'm trying to say. Keep your options open. Even if you play the Queen's Gambit declined, you can play knight f6 on move 2, and then if white plays c4, you can go back into Queen's Gambit type of positions with e6. But I don't see a reason to commit yourself to a passive setup with black when you can play like you're white. Basically that's the philosophy I'm trying to impart here. If white's going to play something passive, then black should play like they were white. If you get the chance, play like you're white here. Okay, it's going to be hard if you're not a d4 player with the white pieces. You may not understand well how to play this with black. So it's trickier in that case. But f4. Now, there's certainly nothing wrong with bishop f5. I mean, the move makes perfect sense. There's a weak square on e4. But the recommended variation, as far as I know, is like c5, c3, knight c6, bishop d3, bishop g4. And I saw a Kamsky game here. You guys see this Sotsky versus Kamsky 2016. I knew this idea, the way that Kamsky played this, was in the Encyclopedia of Chess Openings. I don't remember which volume, but this was the recommendation of Encyclopedia of Chess Openings like 25 years ago or 30 years ago, whenever I opened it. The idea is to play bishop g4 and then e6, and then you're going to actually, in some cases, bring the bishop back to f5 to trade off. Same theme from Arsenal fan Richie's game a minute ago. We're going to trade off the good bishop on d3, except we're doing it a different way, not bishop a6, but bishop f5. He has a terrible weakness all over the white squares, and a really good, simple book that I recommend to a lot of people is The Most Instructive Games of Chess Ever Played by Irving Chernev. It's like it's a collection of world-class games in the history of chess where Chernev annotates them. But he gives this one game by Rubinstein where he was playing actually white in that game in a similar structure with the white pieces. He did like bishop f4 and trade off the white squared bishop. It was called Web of Dark Squares. In this case, it's Web of White Squares. We're going to try to trade white squared bishop off and then exploit the white squares. So that would be like the best way to meet the Stonewall, I think. But there are other good ways, certainly. This is reasonable, the way that Soltiga played here. This is strange for me, the knight on d7. I just don't understand committing this knight to d7 in this position. Why do we want to put the knight on d7? Why not e6 or like c5 or something like that? The knight seems like it would be better on c6 maybe. Is this knight really well placed here? Are we going to go there? Maybe sometimes it can go there, into f6, so it's not so bad, but I still don't really know. I think I like this, and then we'll wait and see what white does. Maybe we'll play c5, maybe we'll play knight d7, depending on what white does. But it's kind of weird to play like c5 and knight d7. Like, why wouldn't we want our knight on that square a bit? weird. But still, it's okay. It's a minor thing. Another move I'm not really huge on. Exchanging here unnecessarily. Releasing the tension without a good reason. You're bringing his pawn, from e3 to d4 for what benefit? It's one thing if you have a queen on c7 and you're going to take off his pawn on f4. That's a gambit in some stonewall lines. But this just doesn't help you. So, white apparently has strong attack here with g4. Not a surprise, really. Too hesitant. And this is a good call. You don't have space, and you're actually vacating those pieces away before that g4 attack hits. f6 is a very strong move. Extricating that knight on e5. Always try to trade off a knight on your side of the board like that. So Soltigo is slightly better now. He's got a bad knight on b3. I didn't really love this move, but I guess it's alright. Playing for g5 is a very aggressive plan. I guess it's not bad. Pretty obvious what you're doing now. But I mean, is it better to put the king on h7 or h8? I'm not really sure. This is like... I mean, he's like copying you, but I'm thinking the same thing. Like, you certainly aren't going to put the king on h2 with the bishop on d6. That's absurd. g5. Not surprisingly, black has a very strong attack here. Took on f4. Again, maybe you could just keep the tension with bishop g6. Guys, thank you for joining me. This is my subscriber game stream. We're going over subscriber games and also playing a few games here and there, some rapid and blitz. So if you're wondering what I'm doing, we're analyzing games of the subscribers here on lichess and Twitch. Okay, I mean, at the end of the day, I was kind of surprised by this. I mean, I thought that black is going for tactics on the b8, h2 diagonal. But I guess he realized he doesn't have anything concrete. It's like bishop takes, rook takes, queen d6, queen f1. And you still don't have a forced win. So he just pulls back, and then the g3 square. And I think that you actually lost this game somehow, Soltigo. I mean, this is ridiculous. How could you lose this, other than on time? So his king makes a journey across the board to the land of no return. I mean, he walked over here, but even so, I didn't look at the end of the game. I mean, I think here, you need to just think about this position more practically. You're up, an exchange for nothing. You don't need to, like, checkmate him necessarily. Let's try to, like, develop the rest of our pieces. And another thing about this position is that classic dilemma when you're up the exchange. Your rooks have to get into the game. So in order for your rooks to get into the game, you're going to have to open a file or two here. And I think that maybe that's going to mean like playing for e5. e5 or f5. I mean, actually, this is the #1 move. And why? How do we come to conclude that this is the #1 move, other than the fact that Stockfish said it? Because this is a guaranteed line opener. We need open lines for rooks in this position. You've got the advantage of up the exchange. His king is exposed. It feels like you're just checking him for the sake of checking him with queen h2. Your queen is actually centralized here. Leave his king where it is. It's exposed in the middle of the whole position, and you can just bust him with f5. Much easier. So you actually played queen h2 check. This gets a question mark. It feels like you're just checking him for the sake of checking him here, and then you played f5. Good. It's still not too late. It's still strong. Fancy play syndrome with rook takes c5. Maybe time was an issue here. He has 18 minutes, so he's just kind of messing around. Now he trades queens. And guess what? White has this kind of dangerous 4-on-2 majority. Sort of a 4-on-2. It's more like a 3-on-2 majority on the queen side. So I could see how this could possibly go wrong for black. Yet, it's still hard to believe, How does black lose this without plundering a piece or something? Maybe like it's better to go here and keep him off of any squares. There comes the queenside majority. And that looks odd, because the pawn will become isolated, but it's still hard to stop it. Your bishop will stop it, but you need more help because that guy will be taking on f5. So black has to be very precise here to find a defense. It looks like crossing over is c7, rook c8, you know, c8, rook takes c8, bishop g4, resigns. So this is like something I would mess up with no time, but you had plenty of time. d4 is a strong move, setting up rook c3, get behind the pawn. But it may be a draw now. This was a cagey move by white, playing c4, avoiding like a draw probably. And now it looks like you basically just kind of like left that pawn to go to its own devices. Just not thinking prophylactically enough. You have to think defensively sometimes. You can't always be on the attack. After d4 c4, you have to sit there and stop and think until you've found something that you're sure stops the pawn here. You cannot make a move in this position until you're sure. I mean, if you're mating him, fine, but I don't see you mating him that fast. And objectively, you have to not move until you find something that works in this position, and it's hard to find a move. A very unfair looking position. The end just says that white is better now. Wow. Apparently you're lost here, which is kind of hard to believe. But he's starting rook takes f5. I mean, it's not that easy to refute that. So I think just the lack of kind of prophylactic thinking in this game. Unfortunately, d3, rook g8 check. Is that what happened? No, he did this, which is crazy. But e2, king takes e2, bishop g4 check doesn't help. This unfortunately walks into rook g8 check, among other things. So it's over. Anyway, okay, Soltigo, you played too fast. Guys, we'll play subscriber challenge here against Clash Kid. Ow, I just pulled a muscle in my neck. What's up, guys, anyway? Close your eyelids. It's about to get really ugly. It was already ugly. I mean, you know, it was kind of a weird position. It looks like you're never probably losing. Your rook was fairly mobile and your bishop was on a diagonal, but then suddenly the c4 move out of nowhere and you have problems. So, but I mean, I think like earlier you played recklessly. Rook takes c5, like, why do you have to sacrifice an exchange there? I mean, I would just not, you know, necessarily want to give back my material advantage for speculative stuff. But Soltigo is kind of an artistic style player. Ominous Monkey. Thank you guys for hanging out with me here on Thursday. e4, e5. It's not a weird stream. What does Clash Kid play? The Berlin defense, right? I lost to him last time in the simul. Oh, I looked at a Berlin defense the other day. What does he do on d3 again? Hopefully we can get, you know, something like that game I saw the other day. Oh no, he played d6. I was hoping for bishop c5. There's a really nice game from the German Bundesliga where, who was it now? Who am I thinking about? Nisipianu, the formerly Romanian grandmaster. Nisipianu won a really, really nice game against Bacro in the German Bundesliga. Just absolutely, like, it was like taking candy from a baby. It was just ridiculous. Mostly home preparation. So I rarely play this line. It's just like, it's not my move. Oh, shit. It wouldn't let me move because I wasn't on the final position. Treat black as white when white moves passive. Open lines went up the exchange. Don't make spike checks. Yeah, good summary. F5. I know someone who plays that regularly. William, I've opened a new account. Chess bra. Alright. It's a good joke. You know, bishop takes c6 is playable, but I'm not really fond of doing that, like, once I've weakened my white squares a little bit. I guess bishop c2 and bishop e3 are both moves in this position. I'm not sure which one is better. Now, some might argue that bishop e3 gives him knight a5 with tempo, but other people might say, hey, you're luring the knight off to the side of the board. So it's kind of one of those, is the glass full or half empty type of things. I mean, I kind of feel like b5 is a small weakening in the Joko piano, as opposed to, you know, like the Roy Lopez, but this is really a Roy Lopez, isn't it? I mean, bishop b7, knight bd2. It's like a d3. Like a normal d3 Lopez. We could even transpose. There's a very strange move, knight e8. He wants to play f5, I guess. So if I go d4, take, knight b4, bishop b3. Let's think before we move. I could take with the knight even on d4. f5 looks really risky for black. I'm not like afraid of him doing f5, but d4, take, knight b4, bishop b3, c5, a3, c4. I would win a pawn there for I don't know what, you know. But we can also take with a knight on d4. Then again, maybe he'll play something like bishop b4. And maybe this is even like a mistake by me. It's strange though, I mean, retreating the knight back to e8, it hardly can be a good move. Consider taking with the knight though. Taking with the knight, it's not much. Pawn takes, knight b4, bishop b3, c5, a3, c4. Pawn takes b4, pawn takes b3, queen takes b3. I'm up a pawn. I have a strong center there. I mean, I find that hard to argue with, you know. Okay, he has bishop g4 instead. Knight e8 is like totally incorrect looking. But now I can always take with a pawn. There's definitely a case to be made for that here. Yeah, screw it. So, I mean, I'm taking with the pawn. I'm not afraid of doubled pawns. Especially without having weakened myself with the classic h3. I was thinking earlier, the other day I should say, about, okay, this I really didn't expect. Playing this when I can go bishop e1 seems kind of weird. It looks like a Zaitsev variation, but it's not, you know what I mean? Like, he's got a problem with his knight here. He's probably losing at least a pawn. I mean, I don't know. It's just a really perverse Zaitsev variation. with the bishop on g4 instead of b7 and the knight not on f6. If we put his bishop on b7, his knight on f6 and d7 or something, it's looking like Kasparov. But Kasparov-Karpov. Bra. Bra is a bra. Bro is a bro. They just sound similar. Alright. Clash Kid scored a couple points against me recently. Looking at the scoreboard there. This was Simul game. What was the other one? That was another Simul. That was the Berlin defense game. Okay, the last one was that crazy game where I was white. I missed the mate in one. That was on Sunday. Yeah, this is what I meant by losing a pawn for just losing a pawn. His knight isn't hurting anybody on b4, actually. So you can just stay there, you know. I guess there's an argument for kicking him back to a6. It doesn't really matter. I mean, I can always kick him out. But knight e8 was a seriously strange move in this opening. I mean, I'm like happy to trade pieces when I have a pawn up normally, but it feels like I'm helping his coordination if I trade knights on c7. Another interesting plan might be to play knight a3 and knight c4, but that's a little abstract. So probably at this point h3 can't hurt. Maybe he'll go back to d7 and then no, he didn't. He should consider going back to d7 to kind of target h3. At least consider it. Now it's feeling like he's playing the Benko Gambit or something. If I play g4, maybe it's worth it. Weaken my queen side here a bit. But come on. I don't know. I mean, I can't really subscribe to black's position. I'm just too solid. g5 is possible in some lines. My center is super well protected with the bishop on b1. Everything's protected. Just my a rook, you know, would like to be over here somewhere. g5, h4. He's putting some pressure on e4 now. It's still not enough. Okay, my rook is protected. He's like hunting tactics here. Waiting move. It also stops g5. We're basically a clear pawn up. No tactics here, I hope. Guys, we're going to go back to game analysis after this. You saw one game where the top player, MVL, I believe, played 39 moves within a minute. Yeah, that should be easily done. I think the question is the quality of the moves. The quality of said moves with MVL will be higher than your average bullet player. What I don't like about this position is that there's no way to resolve it or like exchange anything, you know? It's getting kind of annoying. He's meanwhile trying to set up some sort of kingside tactics. This bishop will help protect my king a little bit. It also supports e5, which might be an option. And he's clearly thinking about h5. I can always play g5 to close it down. But bishop f4 will be able to drop back and defend my king in some positions. So everything is under control. I mean, there's also some offensive tactics with the bishop on f4. Standard. This is a Benoni to me. What's this? Bishop takes c4. It's a cheap trick, basically giving up the d4 square, but he's got knight c5, so not such a bad cheap trick. Bishop takes c4. He wants to win the e4 pawn at all cost. Alright. He's got knight c5. Knight c5 bringing down more pressure. It's getting really weird. Black's pieces are perfect coordinated. Perfectly coordinated. Check it out. He made this work. But I don't know what that does. Trading pieces for black here down a pawn. Not really doing any damage. Okay, this is simply hanging. Queen takes c4. He's undermining my pawn again? Seriously? Makes me feel like a materialist. The materialists, anything for the initiative. Although he's 2 pawns down, so it's not a joke. Without really any concrete threat. Rook b8 or something, I don't know. I think I can afford to even go here. Weakens my king a little though. Yeah, he's instantly over there. a4. Defends everything. Amazing stuff. But how many pawns is he down here? He's down 2 pawns, facing a bishop pair. Defending really credibly. Credibly or incredibly. I don't know if this is good or not. I'm probably losing a pawn back. Maybe just a concrete mistake. He resigned. Why would you resign here? After queen takes c6, I thought you have chances. Take, and here. I mean, I know you had like 5 seconds left, but I don't understand resigning. I was thinking about f4, but you're taking here, coming through. This is a really bad resignation. All endgames are tough for me to win. I don't know. But if we look at the opening, you know, is bishop c2 or bishop b3 better? It's not clear. This is just a crazy move. I mean, 98. Like, you want to play f5? It looks like the main line is d5. You can play rook e8, bishop b7. Alright, let's go back to game analysis. So who are we at? Acerbate. This is... Acerbate is black. What's that quote? Something along the lines, if you don't have an idea, your opponent has one, and you'll have to prove them wrong. I haven't heard of that. Can't play chess after a 9-hour workday. Oh. Alright. Thinking about that. Yeah, well, I pretty much work close to that, teaching chess, but at least I get to stay at home. So knight f3, c5, knight c3. But this definitely falls in the category of like what I was talking about, Soltigo, you know. It feels like it's kind of falling in the category of substandard openings. We should start thinking about like we're white here. You know, it's hard to argue with d5. That's theoretically black's best move. But the prerequisite for playing that would be the ability to play 1 d4 with white. You know, if you play d4, d5 here, you are playing the white side of the two knights tango with a move down, basically. Not something I would want to do against like Georgi Orlov or someone expert in the two knights tango, but we can play it conservatively and equalize. I'm sure this is a perfectly reasonable move for black, but I don't understand why we want to play this in this position. You know, I would imagine that you see these games here like Aronian's Fiddler, Arismendi, Van Bailey. I would imagine this would have happened by a reversed move order in most cases. Probably like knight f3, e6 was played first, and then black played knight c3, and then black played c5. Because here, why do we want to commit to e6? I mean, why not knight c6, d5, or knight f6? e6 is kind of committal and rather passive. Okay, so d3. Speaking of passive, knight c6 is fine, you know, unless you want to play a kind of fianchetto formation, in which case you might want to hold off on that. Yeah, now it's simply a kind of weird King's Indian attack where whites put the knight on c3 rather than putting the knight to d2. This move is actually non-threatening. Bishop e7. He's got a pin that does nothing, and it actually, in many cases, will allow you to not only tactical tricks with like knight takes e4 or something, but it will allow you to trade pieces, which will be in your best interest. Queen e2. This is a strange move, okay? Like, I don't mind trading pieces, and I was just talking about that, but this is like move 5 or 6. You know, there are only a few principles that are really, really important in chess. Development, king safety, and control of the center and material. You know, probably in some order like that. And here it is, you're moving your knight again a second time. I mean, this is move 6. It's not a bad idea to trade pieces, but it's just too early to be moving the same piece twice. You know, you're going to pay a price for this, moving that piece twice. So I like the idea of trading pieces, although it is kind of, it's sort of like, you know, a good bishop on e7. It's also his good bishop. It's kind of weird structure. You're both trading your good bishop, because both sides ironically have, it's very funny, but both sides have pawns on the same white squares for the most part. But anyway, it's just too early to play knight g4. It's not a big mistake, probably, and this I like. This I like. It's a maneuver I've used a lot of times in Sicilian. This is just blundering the queen. So white has to play knight takes e5, knight takes e5, and then probably f4. I would imagine if he wants to profit from this position. There's also d4, and that may be turned into a kind of open Sicilian. You know, after this, you've got a problem with your knight and the g7 pawn. So black has to make a really awkward move here. Now this almost refutes your opening. It looks like you can play knight c6, and that's super weird. This is a strange position after like d5, knight d4. Your knight might get trapped on d4. You have to be very, very careful about it not getting trapped by c3 at some point in the near future. So the final position wasn't so bad. I agree, dude. You can't resign there. I mean, I was having trouble thinking about how to consolidate. I didn't really feel comfortable with my move queen c6, but I was low on time, and trading queens would reduce any kind of accident chance. But not a good idea moving the knight twice, so he just blunders a queen here. But what should he have done, you know? Trade the knight, your knight is... You know, I would have played like f4, but that doesn't open the position for white. This move d4 opens the position. Now after this, I mean, you got to give white the nod here, and white is just better in this position. He's got control of the half open file, the d6 square. He's not winning, but you have a bad bishop on c8. He has much more development. There's a weakness here, so it's an awkward defensive position. The knight can come back to f7 and hold that. So I guess the bigger problem is your backward pawn and the bishop on c8. But I don't see another way. I mean, this knight c6 is interesting. Yeah, it's kind of like an open Sicilian after this, let's say. White has a small advantage. Alright, but he just blundered a queen here, so I think that's pretty much game over. Knight takes f3, g takes f3, queen takes g5, and I mean, we'll see if you made any other mistakes, but you're just taking more stuff, so it's over. Yeah, okay, the opening was interesting, though. I just have, very strong principles about opening play, and I think that you need to adhere to that. And this is just too early to be moving the same piece twice. The principles almost always, chess is not poker, and it's not like roulette. I mean, there is no zero, randomness in chess. It is all according to kind of mathematical principles. If you make a move that is not according to principle, there will be some kind of flaw that the opponent can possibly exploit. Knight g4 is kind of, it's inevitable that there will be something for white to have there. So instead of knight g4, what should you do? It looks like you have different options. I mean, d5 is certainly playable, confronting the center. A more restrained approach with like d6, kind of keeping the tension in the position. Or, I mean, I'm kind of reticent to allow white to play e5, honestly. So I like d5 or d6. But if you really want to be experimental, I'm concerned about this, All right, guys, let's play another game against subscribers. Haberbomb. Guys, we'll try to play analyze as many of the games as I can. This will probably be the last Blitz game I'm going to play because we got just 40 minutes left. We can play, we can analyze more games before the time is out for tonight. 2.5 hour stream. Tomorrow I'll be back. If you guys want to play Blitz and classical chess and you don't have a 9-hour workday like Clash Kid, tomorrow I will be back. Haberbomb, you played knight c3 and bishop b4, queen c2 before now, which I like that line. We had a strange game the other day. You played e4, c5, and something weird happened. Did I make a mistake or did you make a mistake? Oh, you did that. And what did I do here? This is different. Or you didn't play e5 last time. Every time I play this line, I have to think about it a second time. C takes d4, e takes f6. C takes d4, e takes f6, d takes c, g takes f, pawn takes pawn check. What? It's supposed to be c takes d4, a3. C takes d4, a3. Isn't this right? Bishop takes c3, b takes c, knight g8. Yeah, this is the way I'm supposed to play it, but this is an old move. I think like bishop f8 was played here. No. Every time I play this, I'm like second guessing myself. It's really strange. Was this the same as last time, or is it different? Every time I play this variation, I still can't get over like something weird going on. Okay, we can thank Morozevich for this. I guess he's prime suspect for creating this strange line. A lot of imbalance though. I mean, White's position looks really strong on paper, but at the same time, he's kind of lagging in development. Knight d7 looks like a good move. I mean, I could just take on f3 and play two knights against two bishops. But it's a double-edged position. I'm really not sure I have to commit to that right away. Knight d7 isn't good. He just takes on d6. Is this okay for me? Or is this unhealthy? Hyperbomb with a very dynamic approach in the opening. Now I'm a little scared. You did play e5 last time. What did I do different? Or you did something different? Because I'm not sure what's going on here. Now this looks too dynamic for White. I'm kind of scared. You know, I used to think about Morozevich as kind of like the modern Chigorin. But he's so out of the top echelon now that it's just kind of like sad. I don't know much about his personal life or why, you know, why he became no longer in the top. Seemed like he had the talent without a doubt. This line looks really dangerous for black. I mean, you've just gone totally dynamic on me. But Haberbaum seems to be specialist in openings, which is unusual among the players here on our stream. Most people who are under, say, 2100 don't know a lot of theory, but he's playing very topical variations against me. What was the guy's name? I'm not sure what that question is referring to. If it was something I said? I played knight g8 instead of c takes d4. Yeah. And now I'm like not sure what I'm supposed to do. It's not really a question. It's supposed to be one or the other. There's not like an option, is there? But I never analyzed this position. This position is not really supposed to happen, as far as I know. This looks like it's dangerous for black. White is dynamic here. I'm a little scared. Now on the positive side, my king has the flexibility to castle on either side. Obviously, White's structure is compromised. His bishop on b2, while looking strong, is pretty restricted. His other bishop is kind of question mark as well. But maybe the most unpleasant factor would be the rook coming to d1. I seriously don't think I would mind losing an exchange here. I had a game against somebody, I think it was Miralles, or no, someone else, where I sacked an exchange in a structure like this, and my knights were just way better than the rooks. Well, I'm not really scared of the king side now with the bishop on g2, but it could shift to e4 and open the g file and all that. Happy horse shit. Castle's queenside, rook d1. They're both playable moves. Rook c8, rook d6. Well, let's do rook c8. It develops a piece. It could defend me with like rook c7 if I have to. If rook d6, I have knight f5 when I'll gain time. Black's position looks extremely passive. Maybe it is passive, but still, the white king is not really safe here. You know, if my queen could jump over things, if queens were like knights, I would win a piece, I guess. It's odd though that I was hallucinating a few minutes ago that I had that queen g5 move. Briefly hallucinated that. It's starting to look good though. Knights against bishops. Chigorin, Morozevich. Think outposts. We are going to think outposts and pray for outposts. But I'm also attacking c4. I'm not sure it's the best move. It might be, you know, that like knight f5 first was better. But I'm liking this. This is becoming very instructive. When knights have dreams about bishops, they look something like this. And still there's no tactic in the position for me. We're just going to have to massage him gradually here. No knockout blow for black, as awkward as white's situation is. Rook e2. Rook e2, b5. b5 is possible. But I think my king needs to leave the roped off area first. This is, you know, there were problems with queen a4 and some such problems, but this is a very happy moment for me. I mean, I was extremely nervous about the direction the opening was taking, but now it's clear that black is better. C takes d4 is correct. Oh, Morozevich is no longer in the top echelon, I was saying. I mean, the guy's got to be still close to 2,700 somewhere, but he seems like he was in the top 10 in the world, and he kind of, you know, until 10 years ago, and he's not that old. I mean, it's a little strange. And I think he was one of the most creative players in the game, which is sad, you know, but maybe those players burn out faster. I mean, if you look at Shirov, the same thing happened. You know, these guys are ultra aggressive. They put a lot of energy into their games. You know, they're not like tactical players. I guess you burn out after a while a lot faster than the other guys. So the lazy move here is like rook d8. He sidestepped b5. I mean, I just don't have that many options at this point, to be perfectly honest. Knight here to h4. Knight h4. Decentralizing. Maybe I should have tried a positional approach with like knight b7 retreating. If I could trade off one of his knights, my ending might be good. I can also go here, here. Okay, what's happening here? Rook d1, take, take, rook d8, rook d2, take, take, knight b3, queen d3, queen takes c4, queen d8, mate. I've got to watch out for the back rank. I can actually get mated. I don't know, knight h4 looks sort of stupid. White can play like bishop h3, and it's not so bad. Of course, rook d1. I mean, there is no other move. I mean, you could play rook d2, but that loses a pawn, so rook d1 is kind of forced. And I didn't really want to liquidate all the rooks. That wasn't my plan. Maybe I'll trade one rook. But I feel like I made a mistake here, you know. We've given up control of the d file in a sense. I can do this, trade the rooks, and try to play this ending, but I don't really think I'm much better here. Unfortunately. Black is probably only a tiny bit better. What did I do wrong? I don't know. Heberbaum is playing really well. 1758, but I mean this game, first of all the opening, but all around, I've got no threat in this position, incidentally. You know? Probably a bad place to be. I mean H6 or G6 might be another bad move. I'm not really thrilled about that. Because in retrospect, as awkward as it is, though, I'm going to have to support that knight on F5. I guess that's why my intuition told me to play G6, but the thing is, if there's perpetuals with Queen D8, it's going to be Queen F6, Queen D8, Queen F6, Queen D8. My first inclination was to play Knight A4, but I have no threats with Knight A4. So white is only a tiny bit worse here, in reality. But Queen C2 is probably a fairly serious mistake. Giving up the open file seems like a fundamental mistake. That file was everything you've got here. You have one relatively strong bishop now, but it's attacking nothing, you know. And now to give me the d file. In white's defense, though, even if I win a pawn, there might be a lot of endgames where he's sort of hanging on. Now knight d4. Speaking of endgames where he's hanging on. Stubborn defense by white. Knight d3. Threatening f4. He pins me, and I can't get out of said pin without trading queens. Knight d4 is different. Would allow me to trade one set of minor pieces. My best chance is to play queen and knight against queen and bishop. But did he have to trade that bishop? Maybe it was better to trade the other bishop. Now he's got no defense for the pawn on f4. What happens if he... Sorry. What happens if he doesn't do bishop takes d4, but he moves the queen like to here? That exchange is still better for black, but I don't win material straight up. You can take on f3, take on f3. I was looking at queen d3, queen takes d3, knight takes d3. I actually win a pawn there. Knight takes f3, takes, queen d3, takes. It does look promising. We are going to win a pawn on f4. But then his king can come up, and maybe his king will save him somehow. I don't know. The actual game, though, this is a very strong pair. I mean, that basically... Plus he's losing these pawns. That's over. But this is a classic example of like a game where he's got a perpetual check on d8. That's what I was talking about earlier. This is not that different from another position. Good idea. Good idea. I can play here knight d3. I have a bad feeling about this. I have a really bad feeling about this. So queen d2. Guys, queen d2 followed by bishop e2. I don't think I'm even winning. I had some hallucination. I had a check. Oh, I do have a check. Okay, queen d2, queen takes d4, bishop e2, queen b3 check. Okay, is that enough though? This is another premature resignation, I think. Queen d2, queen takes c4. Okay, not as bad as Clash Kids. Bishop e2, queen b3 check. King a1. Oh, he's dropping another pawn with check. Okay, it's not a premature resignation. All right, let's go back to game analysis, guys. We've got a number of games I didn't get to. Did I miss anyone further down the list here? Nefedov, Arsenal fan. We did Arsenal fan. We did Nefedov. We did Soltigo. I've got to get to Azerbaijan. We've got to do... Derndatch is not a subscriber. I would do that if I had extra time during Dutch. We did Soltigo. This is Clash Kids game. Did we talk about this? Okay, this is like a live game. Live poker. That's tomorrow night. All right, knight f3, e6 here. The Paulson variation. I also like g3, but this is kind of early. You know, maybe black has weird moves like d5. That's the problem. I mean, maybe d5 is just like equalizing or something. So I think that g3 is a little too early here. You know, you should play knight c3 and play g3 on the next move. Clash Kid. This is a very good line. Very respected. You can play g3 against anything next move. I mean, even against knight f6. It's playable. I guess I've played knight b5 mostly, personally, against knight f6, but it's certainly even playable here. This is similar, though. Black can do d5. Thought I remember a Carlsen game there, but it was different. Anyways, okay, so g3 right away. He does d5. And this is interesting. It's almost like a Neo Grunfeld, like with colors reversed or something. Kind of cool system for white, you know. Sort of poisonous if black isn't well prepared. But this is super strange, you know, going to b5. I wouldn't do that. I mean, I don't know. I've seen this thing kind of happen in some closed Sicilians, and maybe like the Queen's Indian, you know, like Topalov playing the Queen's Indian with white, but it seems strange. There are a couple games of this, but you know, who are these people, you know? I mean, I would definitely put my bishop on g2. This looks more correct. Got Anand, Vichugov, Gabrikov. You know, even Thorolson is a good player. So this is strange. I don't like bishop b5, but it's a move, obviously. You know, he took here, and do you know this opening? By the way, this weird Sicilian. What is it? d5? Not that. What am I thinking of? Is it that position? Wait a second here. d5. I forgot what I was trying to remember, basically. It doesn't matter. All right. It reminds me of another line, though. I mean, this weakness around your king side might cause trouble later on. But this is a strange decision by black to play d takes e4. Yeah, I still don't remember what I was thinking about. But anyways, some d5 on like move 3 or something, but I can't recall the position now. So everyone played bishop g7. This was one of the strongest early Chinese grandmasters, Ye Qingxuan. 1993. He was like on their first like strong Olympic team and stuff. I guess he's probably, if he's still around, he's probably a trainer. But those guys all played bishop d7. The computer likes this better. It actually looks like a weird closed Sicilian, where white did like g3 and then did d4. I mean, that could happen, though, in some weird... Let me see, like, knight f3, c5. I had a game with Igor Foigl once. It was like d4, e6, d3. Okay, that would be different, though. You know, usually when black does, like, g6 early, you know, this type of thing, like g3, g6, d4. This is, there's a Hikaru game. You know, this is a line that's discussed by, I think, it might even be mentioned in one of Dvoretsky's books. Secrets of Opening, whatever it was. I'm mixing books, but there was a Dvoretsky book that actually discussed that. So, c takes d4. This seems strange, though, to do the d takes e4. And you've got an endgame, right? And then normally, like in the other line I was thinking of, it's something like bishop a4. I'd want to keep my white squared bishop, I guess, but is there a good way to do that? If bishop a4, bishop d7, right? And then you can go here. Doesn't this seem better? Or is it just my imagination? This defends the bishop on a4, man. I mean, this seems like the kind of endgame that you could beat a weaker player. I don't know if this opponent is lower rated than you, but that would be my reaction. Probably to play this position with a very small but lasting structural advantage. Objectively, black is okay, but it's still not fun. You know, I had a game like this against Attila Sebe, some kind of endgame in December. It was very, very unpleasant for black. Maybe my position was a little better than this, but it was something on the same level, and I felt like I was almost in Zugzwang. Black needs to be basically perfect against a strong technical player. You are a good endgame player, so I think this would be really tough for him. Let's see what you did. You went here. Apparently this is stronger. Wow. Well, my computer's slow. I mean, maybe it isn't stronger. It's more unclear for sure. A takes b5, knight takes b5. Yeah, I like the other variation. It's more like low risk. King d8. So rook a5 is possible. Or something of that ilk. I always love to play like rook a4. But it doesn't make a whole lot of sense here. So it looks like his move is actually the best move. I mean, this is an obscure line. I don't imagine this guy, you know, knows what he's doing. This looks awkward, you know, rook e1. It just looks awkward. I'm surprised black doesn't play f5 there. Just to keep your rook bottled up, if nothing else. I mean, I really think that your rook is awkward if you can't take on e4. Your pieces are all bottled up. Look at these guys here on the first rank. So this kind of king move, which is the first suggestion of like Stockfish, it's much less aggressive, but it's also like safer feeling. You can castle long. Okay, guys, rook e1 and then bishop d7. Maybe he plays f5 after all. Okay. And now f5. And now your rook is feeling like, yeah, I don't like that. I mean, it feels like your pieces are too clustered and getting in each other's way. It's very hard, very hard for white to coordinate here. Bishop f4, you're just kind of grasping at straws. Finally, that's a good move. And you start to get coordinated. Rook e1 was, I think, a pretty big waste of time. Now you're like forced to play only moves. He exchanges there. This is just a travesty, I would think. Knight takes c3. Why does he want to exchange there? I mean, his knight is sort of dominating. Huh. I guess it's not so easy for black to play moves either. We're looking at it from white's perspective, but it's not so easy for black to find like improving moves. Rook g8 or something like that. Can I do that? You're coming to d1 with rook d1. Okay, it's just a quick analysis, but it's a pity that black has to trade the knight, you know, and once he has to trade the knight, I think that white is, you get rid of that knight on d5, and white seems to be pretty good now. Was there any way to play rook d1 in this position? Can we go here? He's taking on a4, but you have rook a1 in that position, winning material. No. It's a cautious move, but it weakens your structure a little bit. And now, this is another one of Clash Kids' games. They're always like 100 moves long. I think last time we had to stop analyzing it. It was also like late in the stream and it was 90 moves. I couldn't get to the end. It's kind of the same thing here. Very, very complicated. Difficult to say who's better. Equal material, you have a little better king, but he has the bishop pair. His center looks strong. Yeah, I mean, this is a very strong piece and his king is uncomfortable. But you have to argue that anytime you have the bishop pair, you don't really want to trade off the bishop pair, but he just didn't know what else to do. Now you can concentrate your efforts to focus on the dark squares in the position, and I think it becomes a lot easier for white to come up with a plan because you don't have to fear like both colors. You can just know that everything will be safe on the dark squares. Knight d6 check. Why? I don't know what to do. King e3 would be like my first, absolutely my first idea here. Maybe we can even put the king on e5. I mean, it's complicated, but computer's saying c4. You wanted to go here, which isn't bad, I guess. Too many knight moves. It's all right. Damn, that is a nasty move. Ouch. So you just blundered that tactic. Oh no. So here you just fell asleep tactically. I mean, he's on bishop h5. Anyway, I wanted to go here. Not to say I told you so, but this is the whole idea. Like, once you trade the dark squared bishops, you put everything you have on dark squares, and nothing bad can ever happen. Alright guys, let's go on to the next game. One more game, at least. Bob is next. What is this? So Bob is playing black. It's a Najdorf or what? Oh, what is that? Bob, what are you doing? So Bob inventing a new variation of the Sicilian here with knight c6. But Bob, this is bad. Not only because he could take, because taking to me doesn't look that great. Takes queen a5 check. You get your pawn back. I mean, it looks a bit awkward, but it's not so bad. The main problem is that he can play d5, Bob. I mean, you're just going to get pushed away, and white has a good Benoni now. Now white plays the Benoni with an extra move. Basically, after knight b8, you know, c4 or bishop b5 check or whatever, knight c3, whatever you want. This is a Franco Benoni, or actually a Schmid Benoni, not a Franco Benoni, because you haven't played e6. It's a Schmid Benoni where you're just the tempo down. This is bad. You have to play c takes d4 in all the lines of the Sicilian. I mean, d6, you have to play c takes d4. Knight c6, you have to play c takes d4. Even in e6, you usually play c takes d4. In e6, there's a few guys who will play like d5. You know, you'll see this from time to time, but it's not really a great line for black. Maybe as a surprise weapon or something. You see here, there's a game Golubov played. This guy played in a tournament here in April. It's a young Russian master. You know, he's playing weird stuff. He plays the Budapest Gambit. He's kind of creative and willing to play unusual openings, but mostly you always have to take on d4, Bob. So he's just you know, not punishing you by playing bishop c4. It's like white wants his normal position, so he's letting you get away with it. And now he plays d5, and it's strong still. It's not too late to play d5. Actually, it wasn't a blunder. Clash Kid said it wasn't a blunder. I thought it was a blunder, and I saw the analysis go down to very bad for you. It wasn't a blunder? All right, we'll take a look quickly after this. Now you suddenly have an okay position, Bob. It looks like a weird pseudo Benoni. But white has kind of thrown away his opening advantage for the most part here. So I think that white is only a tiny bit better. Now maybe you could consider bishop g4 trading pieces in this position, but that's what you did. Okay. Yeah, I mean, that or castles. But if you castle, he can play h3. So this is maybe not a bad move. Trading pieces. It's provocative to play something like bishop h5, but if you desperately had to play for a win. Not a very exciting position for black, however. You know, I think it's... This is probably a mistake, in fact. You just have to castle or play knight takes d5 with a slight disadvantage. Now your b7 pawn. Watch out. You better take on d5 here. He didn't do it. I think just a4 would be most people's reactions. Queen b5 check. But that's not what he wants to do, trading pieces, I don't think. You know, that's wrong recapture, though. You probably hallucinated what I did when I first looked at the position. Like, you can't play king takes because the bishop takes f7, but actually that's defended. That's kind of funny. But this actually looks better, too. But then again, his bishop gets away. Back with bishop c4. So white remains better now. Just the d5 square. The d5 square. Sorry, I almost fell out of my chair. No problem other than the fact that I almost fell on my butt. Alright, queen takes d7. This is very bad now, but he plays f5 too quickly. These pawns control lots of squares. That gives you a square. Now it's not so easy. You have a good outpost. White's trying to win like too directly. And that's a bad exchange. You know, I don't see how he benefits from that. Bishop e3, knight f6. White's still better, but he loses a piece now to c4. And that's, I guess, what happened. You know, Bob must have seen it because of... Sorry, I'm messing around with my chair. Must have seen it because of the valuation going down. But you didn't save your knight on f6 here. I'm like surfing here. Alright. No jokes about the chair. Bob's Benoni. I lost the pawn in the end. Thought the c-file. I'll have to look at it before we finish. Bob just gave the piece back. I mean, this is the point where he has to win the game. This is trapped. Game over. Noah's Ark trap. They call it in the Roy Lopez. Just can't, you know, ignore this. Knight g8. I like knight g8 because with knight g8 we can recapture with the knight on e7 and guard against this coming in here. That would be game over. Okay, guys, let's go back to Clash Kids game for a second because I wanted to correct whatever I said wrong. I thought it was like a blunder in that game. Let me see. What did we think here? I just thought that you lost the exchange for nothing. He plays rook a5. You played knight c4. Oh, you're not losing an exchange. Bishop h5 check. Okay. King e1. Knight takes a5, but this pawn is falling. No? And your knight is offside. So you're not actually losing the exchange, but... I mean, technically it's not a blunder. This is not a blunder. But, I mean, the previous move is a blunder, in a way, right? I mean, going here is a blunder. The physical move, like knight, you know, now it's too late. This is a blunder. I mean, in any case, you're probably losing here. You're not losing an exchange, but you're losing a vital pawn. And he's got, like, 5 against 3. This majority is just devastating. I mean, 5 against 3 on the king side. Just for a second, I want to... I think we had one more game from Take Back that we didn't go over. Last game from Take Back. Correspondence chess. 13 cent pawn loss for white and 5 cent pawn loss for black. I don't want to guess which one you were. He had a comment there, though. I guess I made a bad positional blunder. Alright, we can guess which side he was. I had white. Okay. You had only 13 center pawn loss. Correspondence chess. This is it for today, guys. We're gonna go back to. But you had a good chance in that game, Clash Kid. I mean, you were a little clearly better at one point. Bishop b4 here. This is a weird sideline. I'm thinking of the other line, you know, like bishop d2, d takes e4, queen g4. That's kind of similar. But queen g4 right away. You'll catch some people. Looks like Jabava actually managed to beat Ponomarev with this. Nabadi played it recently in 2017. That game is probably from Zalakaros here in Hungary. The Bulgarian Kirill Stupak. I mean, Nabadi had a pretty good, strong tournament. He won the tournament, didn't he? No, he finished like second or third. He may have lost, though. It could have been from somewhere else, though. I mean, I'm not sure. Queen g4. Actually, Zalakaros this year in Hungary was won by Zubov, or Zubov, the endgame specialist. Queen takes g7, rook g8. I mean, so the line is similar to that other line. And now, okay, d takes e4. So d takes e4 transposes to that line. Ponomarev lost this with black. Stupak won. And there's very few games. Like, check it out, dude. Planinich versus Byrne from 1975 is one of the top 5 high-rated games. Byrne was 2,600 in 1975. That's impressive, man. I didn't think he was that high-rated. Wow. He was playing until the 90s. I remember seeing him in the New York Open in like 1992. Maybe it was 1993 or even later. But interesting here. So c5 seems to be like an extra move that only the Illuminatis know about. Rustamov, computer playing specialist. He likes to play against computers. Tal Shaked, student of John Watson, French defense expert, winner of the World Junior Championship and quitter of chess. All right, so let's see. Rook g6, this is another move. Yeah, so here he has rook g4 apparently. You know, you're kind of offering an implied draw offer with that move. It looks like you're supposed to go here. Centralized. I mean, I admit this is not a really appealing, a super appealing position for white. You know, it feels like you're really lagging in development, you know, in order to kind of weaken his kingside pawn structure. But at the end of the day, it just feels like white is super far behind in development. I mean, this is just a, what is this, just a draw? I mean, is there any other move you can play here? You're offering a draw with the white pieces, so you got to go back here. All right, if you play in the future, you got to play for a win, but he logically just takes the pawn. Okay, it seems about equal, and he's looking for bishop a6, which seems normal. You know, it's funny that you played a3 here, but I don't know why it's funny. I mean, why is f3 better than a3? You know, maybe the fact of the fact that you can put the king on f2. You know, the king on f2 will be like a good location for the white king, where it can guard even maybe g2 on the g file. You know, so this might actually make some sense. If he tries to avoid exchanging pieces, you don't have to go king f2 either. I mean, it's a move. Stockfish likes it, going here. You know, artificially castling and getting out of the pin. And you leave this out to dry in that line anyway. But I gotta go, guys. Just one more look here. I mean, a3 doesn't it doesn't look that bad on the surface, but this is coming, you know. So after bishop takes c3, you're better off playing b takes c, so you can oust him without exchanging bishops on a6 so easily. After this, it's just really easy for black to play take there, and you know, it's like knight against bad bishop. It's a simple position, you know. Probably white has to fight for a draw here, realistically, you know. So I really think that the critical improvement is not, you know, a question of, yes, this is better to do like b takes, but get rid of the knight in your face. You know, is this really a strong piece? It's not sure, you know, but this is definitely a strong piece. After f3, let's look if he does this, knight takes c3. You know, it's kind of the same thing. If you do knight takes c3, you're getting the same position. Black should be slightly better here after bishop a6. Similar to the other line, I would think. But once again, you could play b takes c and then have ideas of knight f4 when it's kind of complicated. I mean, maybe you could even like put your bishop on d3 next. This is a neat move. Bishop a5, keeping you tied down, then king f2, then bishop a6, then knight f4, something like this. Probably rook, I don't know where. Oh, he's even got this nasty in-between move. So bishop a5 is a really nice resource. I probably would have played knight takes c3. Let's see, bishop a6. I mean, even this move can't be so bad. But maybe you want to put his knight on a6. It's not that great there. And then king f2. But it seems like black is slightly better. Where did we really go wrong, you know? Well, I mean, it looks like the whole line is wrong. You just have to play queen e3 and stay in the center. And it's still not a great line for white, though. Probably just equal. It looks like the Illuminati move gives white some trouble. But this is Illuminati move in the other position. It's an Illuminati move here too. c5. Alright guys, I gotta go. Thanks for watching, and thanks for subscribing to the stream. We have Blitz and Rapid Chess tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. here on lichess and Twitch. I'd like to thank everyone for watching, for obviously for subscribing on Twitch. It's my pleasure to give back by doing some analysis and focusing on the subscribers on Thursdays. We had some quality games analyzed here, I think. Next stream Friday morning tomorrow, 10 a.m. After that, Saturday's off. Sunday is a simul stream, 6:30 p.m. on Sunday. It'll be like 30-30, kind of faster than last week. Last week was 40-40. We're doing a 30-30 simul. It takes about 2.5 hours max for 20 players. We will be back Friday. So the other thing I'd like to say is thank you to Soltigo for moderating, and thanks everybody for watching. If you can donate via PayPal, support the stream, I really appreciate it. If not, just subscribe on Twitch, or even just hang out with me and you know, interact here and make contributions to the analysis or the Blitz and Rapid that we play. Okay guys, I got to get out of here. Thanks everyone for watching. Good games, and I will see you tomorrow morning. Bye bye.